What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with the 7-round mock draft series. We are doing the Arizona Cardinals, continuing with the best mock draft, the biggest, the baddest, the hardest mock drafts you're going to find anywhere on YouTube. Let's see how we can do. I think we've been pretty much on point. It seems like the overwhelming majority have agreed with my mock drafts. Like I said, it's tough. I'm an Eagles fan, trying to do all 32 teams. I think I know enough to properly assess and address teams' needs. But if you're a diehard of a certain team, feel free to let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with any of my picks, and we can talk it out. I like, shooting the shit about football with the subs. So the Cardinals last year were 7-8-1. Offensively, they ranked 9th, and defensively, they ranked 2nd. Their MVP was David Johnson, easily. Phenomenal season, a 2,000+ yard total season. I think, in my opinion, the most valuable player. It doesn't always translate to who the best player is. I think the best player that stepped on a football field last year was David Johnson. He was unstoppable. He was godlike. And hopefully, it seems like his rehab is going well this offseason, and he should bounce back and have another monster year for the Arizona Cardinals. And they need it, man. They're in a win-now mode to try to win before Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer hang them up. So the needs for the Cardinals before free agency started, I had linebacker, tight end, wide receiver, defensive back, and offensive guard. Their free agency moves as of the 30th of March. They tagged Chandler Jones, and then they signed him to a 5-year, $83 million deal. Give that a B+. He's one of the top edge rushers in the NFL today. And that's pretty much the, slightly below market value. So I think that's a solid deal there. They signed Jermaine Gresham to a 4-year, $28 million. I'm giving that C- because outside of run blocking, he's pretty much useless in the receiving game. I think he graded out fairly well in run blocking from Pro Football Focus, but you can see from his receiving stats, he wasn't really utilized there very much. They signed Antoine Bethea on a 3-year deal. That's a Band-Aid right there at safety after losing Tony Jefferson. DJ Swearinger's gone. Evan Mathis is gone. Calais Campbell is gone. I mean, I had them I made a video where I said they were the losers of free agency simply because they don't have the salary cap to retain everyone. And if I'm a Cardinal fan, it is do or die this season, but I think it's going to be incredibly tough because your roster on paper at least is weaker than what it was last year. Kevin Minter's gone. He was a solid linebacker for you guys, just to name a couple. But they did re-sign A.Q. Shipley on a 2-year, $3.5 million deal. He's a solid center. That's a B. They signed Phil Dawson. He's a good kicker. They signed Carlos Dansby on a 1-year, $2 million deal. Get another Band-Aid type player, but he can still produce a little bit. C+. They re-signed Andre Ellington on a 1-year deal, and they plan on moving him to wide receiver, which is kind of interesting. And then they brought in Jarvis Jones, who kind of was a bust. Well, I don't think kind of. He was a bust with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, now he's just more depth as an outside linebacker. So overall, again, they did lose a lot more than what they gained, but they still have a high potent offense and one of the better coaches in the NFL in Bruce Arians. So let's see what they did in the 2016 draft and how I really felt about it. And I thought they had a terrible draft, to be completely honest with you. They had one of the worst drafts, in my opinion, and I don't even think a lot of those guys produced. I mean, the first round they got Robert Nkemdiche. Did he even see the goddamn field? Nkemdiche finished with 1 tackle and 1 pass deflected. I'm not exactly sure if he got banged up, if he was injured or not. Maybe he just didn't see the field. They got Brandon Williams, the corner out of Texas A&M in the 3rd round, and I know myself included, and a couple other draft experts, I'm not one of those, had him as like a 7th round flyer because he was a converted player. He played running back, and then they moved him to corner, taking him in the 3rd round. I mean, he had 26 tackles. Again, not great. They get Evan Boehm for the center from Missouri. I thought that was their best pick out of the entire draft, and he's a guy that could be depth. But then with the emergence of A.Q. Shipley, they just have good depth at the center spot. They got safety Marquis Christian out of Midwestern State in the 5th round. Exactly who is that? I don't even think he's on the roster anymore. They got Cole Toner, offensive tackle from Harvard. Did he even play at all last year? He played 2 games. 6th round, their final pick, they got Harlan Miller, the corner from southeastern Louisiana. Guess how many games he played? He had 7 tackles. He had 1 pick. Yeah, man, not a good draft from Arizona. Very poor draft, and hopefully I can redeem themselves and give them a nice 7-round mock here so that they have the strongest roster possible to make one last dish effort for a Super Bowl. So let's jump right in to the 7-round mock. So with their 1st round pick, 13th overall, I am selecting Marlon Humphrey, the cornerback from Alabama, 6 feet tall, 197 pounds, ran a 4.41 40, and had an excellent 3-cone drill of 6.75 seconds. Pro comparison is Jimmy Smith, the very talented corner from the Baltimore Ravens. And I think corner is a spot they have to go. Get Pat Pete, an actual playmaker, not Brandon Williams, not a guy that was playing running back a couple years ago. Get a guy like Marlon Humphrey, good scheme fit for what they do down there in Arizona, and even better, two big, lengthy guys on the outside with him and Patrick Peterson. I mean, Justin Bethel's a special teamer. I don't really know how much he can contribute at the cornerback spot. I mean, Harlan Miller looked like the better of the two between him and Brandon Williams. I don't necessarily know. If you're a Cardinal fan, maybe you can give a deciding factor there. But where they have a lot of holes down on the defense side of the ball, you got to go best player available, and that's going to be Marlon Humphrey, the corner from Alabama here. Lots of holes, and I think we're starting to plug them like a porn star. We're just seeing a hole and plugging them up right away. I really like the Marlon Humphrey pick. And unfortunately for the Eagles, they pick right before the Eagles. The less corners that are on the board when the Eagles pick, the more worried I'm going to be, which is a little bit, a little bit worse. So maybe they could move. Actually, look at the depth chart. Tyvon Branch could play a little bit corner. He is flexible back there in the secondary. But again, Marlon Humphrey would be a day one starter for the Arizona Cardinals. Jump to the second round, pick 45. I am selecting Evan Ingram, the tight end weapon from Ole Miss. One of my favorite tight ends that I've watched in college, even though he's, from Mississippi, not from Florida. 6'3", 235 pounds, 4'4", 40. Had a 36-inch vertical. Very good three-cone drill. Very good 20-yard shuttle. His pro comparison is Jordan Reed. You're not getting any run blocking, but you have your run blocking tight end, Jermaine Gresham. This guy here is a weapon for Carson Palmer. They have not had a good tight end weapon in Arizona ever. I don't think. Me and my buddy were talking about it the other day. It's like, when was the last time they actually had like a great tight end in Arizona, a guy that could actually make plays? We couldn't even remember. Even back when they were, going to the Super Bowl or contending for the Super Bowl with Kurt Warner, I could not name their tight end to save my life. So get a guy like Evan Ingram, who's an absolute weapon in the second round. He's not going to give you diddly shit when you're trying to get a run blocking. But at least that's what you got with Jermaine Gresham. It's a nice two-headed combination. Kind of what Miami's doing. Miami got Anthony Fasano and Julius Thomas. Two guys that could do both the jobs together as a unit. I think you get that with Evan Ingram here to pair with Jermaine Gresham. But Ingram is an absolute weapon. And I think low-key, he is such an explosive, unique type guy. He could be a low-key. If he goes to a team like Arizona, it's going to use him right away. A sleeper for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I could see him very well getting, 7, 8, 900 receiving yards and close to double-digit touchdowns if they feed him like he deserves to get fed, man. He is a great mismatch for that team, especially with David Johnson out the backfield. There's only so many good safeties and linebackers that can cover these guys. They have two weapons that's going to require doubling up. And so one of those guys is going to get consistently free. And I think it will be Evan Ingram because teams are going to be trying to shut down David Johnson as much as they can next season. You're going to have to. How else are you going to contain him? So moving to the third round, it's pretty clear that this is the last hurrah for Carson Palmer. So I'm going with my favorite quarterback in this year's draft class in terms of value. Everyone knows my favorite quarterback actually is Deshaun Watson. But in terms of value, pick 77 third round, I'm going Davis Webb, the quarterback from Cal. Some people are saying he may have a chance to go in the second round. I think he will, man. He has potential. The chance, he definitely has that chance. I think he will be more so in the third round. It will be tremendous route for the Arizona Cardinals who need to reload at the quarterback spot because we already saw what happens when Drew Stanton comes in. And if you're a Cardinal fan and you see Drew Stanton strut out on the field, you know you're going to lose that game. And the season's probably done because he usually came on for an injury. So he's 6'5", 230 pounds, 4.79 40. Tested incredibly well. Tested in the top percentile for all the quarterbacks that attended the combine. Big arm. The pro comparison on NFL.com is Brock Osweiler. I do not see that at all. I think, when you look at what Jared Goff looked like out of the Cal, similar system, it's really easy to compare the two. Davis Webb looked much more explosive, if you will, from that system. I mean, Goff had a little bit more accuracy, a little bit refined touch, but Davis Webb had that big cannon of an arm. So I guess that from that standpoint, I can kind of see the comparison to Brock Osweiler. But I think a guy like Davis Webb, redshirt him. He's not going to play at all. Obviously, going to a phenomenal setup behind Carson Palmer. But Bruce Arians is an offensive mastermind. He's one of the, I'd say, top 5 offensive coaches in the NFL in terms of strategy and being able to get the most of his players. I think Davis Webb would go in an excellent situation sitting behind Carson Palmer for a year in Arizona and looking to start in 2018. I think, go do it. This actually makes perfect sense. I think for Davis Webb, best fits either would be Arizona or New Orleans. And luckily enough, the Cardinals can grab him here in the third round. Jumping to the fourth round, I have them going with my highest defensive tackle available on the board. That's Jaleel Johnson from Iowa, 6'3", 300, and, I don't know, it fluctuates between 315 and 320. Ran at 5'3", 40, 19 reps on the bench press. Pro comparison is Ziggy Hood, who's been, a decent starter, I guess. Not great, not spectacular in his time with the Washington Redskins and the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's, a disruptor. That's what you need. You get into the fourth round, you're not going to get a lot of starters, but a guy that can come in and compete with a Rondi Guntner, Corey Peters, Josh Morrow, Frosty Rutger, guys like that. He can come in right now, add great depth to the defensive front that's going to try to, hopefully, that Kim Dichie can replace what they're going to lose in Khalil Campbell, or at least make it not as drastic of a lack of production. But I think adding a guy like Jaleel Johnson to help just really solidify and try to sturdy up that defensive line would be a phenomenal pick. As phenomenal as the buzzword of the day, clearly, in this video, for the Arizona Cardinals. So they have 2 fifth-round picks. With one of them, they're getting one of my favorite prospects in this year's draft class. And with another one, they're getting a guy that left my favorite team, because I don't know, I actually can't remember. But with the 5th-round pick, 157, after going Jalen Reeves-Maybin, the linebacker from Tennessee, I think they, you know, as much as I want him to fall to the 6th, 7th round, he's probably going to go with 5th. I think teams are going to fall in love with his ability, his athletic ability, his ability to drop back into coverage. 6 feet tall, 230 pounds. I think he would be an excellent complement with Deon Buchanan back there. You have Marcus Golden and, you know, Chandler Jones plays a little bit outside linebacker. I don't think he ever actually is down lineman in that scheme. They do play that 3-4 front. Those are your edge rushers. So in the middle right now, you have Deon Buchanan and Carlos Dansby. Dansby is a Band-Aid. I mean, they have Scooby Wright on the roster. That's somewhat intriguing to me. But I think you need to get another guy that can drop back into coverage. Well, those guys are doing what they do best, and that is edge rushing. And I think Jalen Reeves-Maybin in the 5th round is the best cover linebacker available. I think he's one of the best cover linebackers in this year's draft class. If he didn't have the injury history, he'd probably be a 3rd-round pick minimum, somewhere around that range. It really reminds me, as an Eagle fan, of Michael Kendricks. And even though Michael Kendricks does have his flaws, he still is a great starter in this league. And that guy there at the 5th round, you know, there you go. Have a good pick there. So with their 2nd, 5th round pick 179, I have them going with Jessamine Dunker, the offensive guard from Tennessee State, originally from Florida, but then he got arrested. What's it say? But an arrest for grand theft of a motor scooter made him transfer. All right, so he's not he's a fucking idiot. But he's 6'4", 320 pounds, 4'9", 40, 23 reps on the bench press. Fairly athletic, but I think a guy like him, he definitely is a project player that would have to sit behind a Mike Upati. Unfortunately, you maybe want to look for a guy that can compete with Cole Toner for the other starting guard spot. But I do think the more depth you get, Mike Upati is no spring chicken. I could see him very well being a cap casualty in either next year or the year after that. So having, you know, a potential guy like Duncan that has a certainly high ceiling, but you're going to need to coach him up. He's going to need to get the technique down. You should pair with the athleticism. Still think that's the kind of pick that you get here in the 5th round. A guy that's not going to be rushed to start, but has the upside to eventually become a starter, you know, his sophomore season. I think Dunker has that ability. Jumping into the 6th round pick, 197, I have them going with a wide receiver, Jehu Chasson from Michigan, 6'3", 205 pounds, ran a 4.47 40. Also, I posted a fairly good 3-cone drill of 6.7 seconds. The pro comparison is Brian Quick, who has been terribly average for the LA/St. Louis Rams, and I think he recently just signed with the Washington Redskins. But I think Chasson, again, both the wide receivers from Michigan really impressed me with their athleticism at the straight line speed of the 40-yard dash at the at the combine. Sorry, I thought both those guys would run like high 4.5s. Both of them ran sub 4.5s, which was fairly impressive. Chasson was, you know, pretty productive overall in his career with Michigan, even though they've never been a big-time passing team. But I think what you get with him is really good jump ball ability, NFL size. The speed was actually really impressive, like I said. I believe he has potential to be a wide receiver 2 in the NFL. And, you know, it's about time you get some cover there in case Larry Fitzgerald decides to hang him up, which I think next season will be his last year. John Brown solid. J.J. Nelson has emerged as a deep threat, but I think you need to get a guy with a good set of hands on him to come in and compete, because right now I'm not seeing a whole lot of talent outside of John Brown and Larry Fitzgerald, and I guess J.J. Nelson for his deep ball ability in the wide receiver room. So I think getting a guy like Jehu Chasson, he'd definitely be a shot to make that roster, as he's better than, in my opinion, looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably about the bottom 8 wide receivers. They have looks like a 10 to 12 wide receivers currently on the roster. I think Chasson would easily come in and compete to be number 4 on that team at minimum. So then finish on the draft with the 7th round pick 231. I have them going with Jeremiah Ledbetter from Arkansas, defensive end. Would play, defensive end in this scheme of 3-4 defensive end, 6'3", 280 pounds, ran a 4.84 40, 29 reps on the bench press, very strong, very athletic. Interior, I think he's good against the run. You need to work with him on as edge rushing to get after the quarterback, but I think, you know, again, you just got to continue to reload here on the defensive front and get younger. I think more so, you know, Kimdichie, you're going to hope that he eventually pans out. You burned a 1st round pick on him. I think looking at the other side, though, Rodney Gunther, you got friggin' Josh Morrow, as we mentioned before when we were talking about Jaleel Johnson. You kind of just got to keep, I think they have to go. They have to reload the secondary, which, I mean, they were doing big time and getting Marlon Humphrey back there now. And then you have to reload the defensive fronts. And I think, you know, solidifying that with the 7th round Ledbetter, he probably might end up on a practice squad. Maybe no guarantee to make the main roster, but, you know, best available defensive lineman that could fit in a 3-4 scheme in the 7th round. There's not much more I can say about that, but I think Marlon Humphrey, Evan Ingram, and Davis Webb to go along with Jalen Reeves-Maybin in the 5th round. That is a pretty solid draft, in my opinion, of the Arizona Cardinals. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If this is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. 100 likes on this video, and tomorrow's video, Philadelphia Eagles, 7th round mock draft. I don't know what edition that is. It's probably my 7th one I've done, so that will be interesting. I think you guys will enjoy that. So until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace out. Hey you there? I know you like Madden Ultimate Team. I know you like to rip packs hard. I know you like to watch all the MUT YouTubers that say and do the same videos every week. You love having your mind blown every 12 hours with insane, unbelievable 500k pack openings. Now it's time for you to get on the action. You've been told by everyone from edgy teens to 30-year-old neckbeards for years to go to their sponsor and get a fat discount on MUT coins, but the new era is here, and it's a site that I've decided to partner with, and you guys must know, if I let them sponsor me, it is legit. Mutbuck.org. Use code C4IsMyDaddy for an unheard of 43% discount code on all MUT coin orders. Stop getting made to look like an idiot by EA. Spend your real money on fake money that's worthless in 4 months. Grab your ankles and get MUT bucked. We'll be gentle.